The FM26 beta is dropping at any time in the next couple of weeks, and if you're anything like me, you're already planning your first save. But here's the thing. Anyone can manage Manchester City or Real Madrid. Where's the challenge in that? Where's the story? Today, we're going to look at 10 clubs that were once giants of the game. Clubs that won league titles, lifted European trophies, and dominated their eras. But they're fallen. Hard. Some are in the second tier, some are in the third. One club on this list has dropped to the fourth tier of their domestic league. These are the saves that will test you. These are the stories that will make your FM26 career mode legendary. These are the fallen giants. Let's get into it. So number 10 on my list are Portsmouth. They weren't just a Premier League club, they won the FA Cup in 2008. They beat Cardiff in the final at Wembley. They played in Europe. They had players like Sol Campbell, like David James, like Jermaine Defoe. Finished 8th in the Premier League in 2007. It was a club punching above its weight, and they loved every single second of it. But then came the financial collapse. Administration, relegation, more administration. They dropped from the Premier League down to League Two in not very long at all. They've crawled their way back up to the Championship now, but they're still a long way from where they were. So your challenge is to get Portsmouth back into the Premier League, win another FA Cup, and show the South Coast that Pompey can rise again. It's a proper Phoenix story. The fans never gave up, even when the club was at rock bottom. This is about restoring pride to a city that bleeds blue. At number 9, we've got Germany's Hertha Berlin. Hertha Berlin are the old lady of German football. They were founded in 1892. They've won 2 German championships and were a Bundesliga mainstay for decades. They played Champions League football in the 90s and 2000s, and they're a capital city club playing at the iconic Olympia Stadion. They were unfortunately relegated from the Bundesliga in 2023, and they stayed in the Zwei Bundesliga last season. They should be competing with Bayern, with Dortmund, with RB Leipzig, but instead they're fighting to get back to the top flight whilst watching Union Berlin represent the capital in Europe. So your challenge here is to return Hertha to the Bundesliga, establish them as a top 6 club, and get them back into European competition. Make Berlin blue and white again. Capital city clubs should dominate. Hertha have the history, the stadium, and the potential. They just need someone to unlock it. Now at number 8, we've got Sampdoria of Italy. They were Serie A champions in the 1990-91 season. They've won 4 Coppa Italias. They've won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1990. They reached the European Cup final in 1992, where they lost to Barcelona at Wembley. They had legends like Gianluca Vialli, Roberto Mancini, and Ruud Gullit playing for them. This was a club that competed with Juventus, Milan, and Inter for Italian supremacy. They were relegated from Serie A in 2023. They're now in Serie B, fighting to get back to the top flight whilst watching Genoa, who are their city rivals, represent the city in Serie A. This is a club that should be challenging for Europe, not scrapping in the second tier. And they've had such a rough time of things lately. They almost got relegated to Serie C. They've had serious issues. Your challenge here is to get Sampdoria promoted back to Serie A, then rebuild them into a top 6 club. Bring European football back to the Stadio Luigi Ferrari and show Genoa who really owns that city. Sampdoria have been Serie A champions. They have been European finalists. They belong at the top of Italian football, not in Serie B. This is about restoring pride to one of Italy's most iconic clubs. At number 7, we are going to South America, to America de Cali in Colombia. They've won 15 Colombian league titles, 4 Copa Libertadores finals in the 80s. America de Cali were the dominant force in Colombian football and one of South America's most feared clubs. They had legendary players, passionate fans, and a trophy cabinet that made them giants of the continent. But then they had financial problems, match-fixing scandals, and mismanagement that saw them relegated to the second tier in 2011. They spent 5 years in the second tier in Colombia. They're back in the top flight now, but they haven't won a league title since 2019, and that Copa Libertadores glory feels like ancient history. Your challenge here is to win the Colombian league again, then go all the way in the Copa Libertadores. America need to reclaim their place as South American royalty. This is about continental glory. America were 4-time Copa Libertadores finalists. They deserve to finally lift that trophy. At number 6, we have got Everton. You're going to be saying, why are they here? They're in the Premier League. They're 9-time champions of England. They've won 5 FA Cups. They won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1985. Everton are historically one of England's most successful clubs. They've spent more seasons in the top flight than any other club. They have never been relegated from the Premier League. But they've been through hell recently. They had a points deduction a couple of years ago for financial breaches, constant relegation battles. Some Everton fans would tell you sometimes it looks like they're trying to get relegated. They're currently a mid-table-ish side, but the fear is always there. This is a club that should be challenging in Europe, not fighting to stay up. So your challenge here is to stabilise Everton after their move into the brand new stadium, and then we're going to return them to European football. Make the blue half of Merseyside proud again. This is Liverpool's oldest club, the OGs, and they deserve to be there, not watching the red half lift the trophies. Everton are too big to be in a crisis. They're a sleeping giant that needs to be woken up before it's too late. Now, for number 5, we are going to Suwon Samsung Bluewings in Korea. South Korea, obviously, the most decorated club in South Korean footballing history. 4 K-League titles, 2-time AFC Champions League winners back-to-back in 2001 and 2002. They dominated Asian football in the early 2000s. 24 major trophies. It was a dynasty. But they haven't won the K-League since 2008. And then, in 2023, they were relegated to the K-League 2 for the first time in club history. Korea's most successful club went to the second tier, while their local rivals Suwon FC represent the city in the top flight. Your challenge here is to get promoted back to K-League 1 immediately, then reclaim that domestic dominance, win the AFC Champions League again. Show Asia that the Blue Wings are still the kings of Korean football. This is the most successful club in Korean football history, and they played in the second tier. That's not just a fall, it's a humiliation that you need to correct. And now for number 4, we're going to DC United in the MLS. And this is a personal one for me. I'm a big DC United fan. I've been following them since the MLS started in 1996. We won 4 MLS Cups in the first 8 years of the league. 96, 97, 99 and 04. 3 supporters' shields. DC United were Major League Soccer in the early days. We had legends like Jaime Moreno, Marco Echeverri and John Harkes. They made the club the standard that everyone else chased. But it's been 21 years since that last MLS Cup. 21 years! The last trophy of any kind was the 2013 US Open Cup. Missed the playoffs again in 2024, finishing 10th in the Eastern Conference. Whilst clubs like Atlanta, LAFC and Seattle have built dynasties, DC United have become an afterthought in their own league. So your challenge is to return DC United to MLS Cup glory. Win the Supporters' Shield. Remind everyone why this club was the original MLS powerhouse. Make Audi Field a fortress. It's personal here for me. DC United built the MLS. And watching them struggle while newer clubs dominate is painful. They deserve to reclaim the throne. Now, for number 3, we are going to go back to Spain. I say back to Spain. We've not been to Spain yet. Deportivo La Coruña. They were La Liga champions in the year 2000. They broke the Barca Real duopoly. They finished second 3 times. They reached Champions League semi-finals in 2004. They had players like Roy Mackay, Diego Tristan, and Juan Carlos Valerón and Fran. Super Deport were one of the most exciting teams in Europe in the early 2000s. But they got relegated from the Liga in 2018. They got relegated again to the Segunda División B in 2020. That's the 3rd tier of Spanish football. They've climbed back up to the Segunda now, but they're still 1 division away from La Liga and light years from Champions League football. So your challenge, get promotion back to La Liga. That's step 1. Then rebuild Super Deport. Get them back into Europe and challenging the big 2 again. Galicia deserves a giant. They broke the Barcelona Real Madrid stranglehold once. That takes something special. And they can do it again. You can do it again. Back to Germany for number 2 on my list. We're going to Schalke. Schalke, 7 German championships, 5 DFB Pokal titles, UEFA Cup winners in 1997. Schalke reached the Champions League semi-finals in 2011 and were regulars in European competition. They're one of Germany's biggest clubs with one of the most passionate fan bases in world football. But they got relegated from the Bundesliga in 2021 with just 16 points. One of the worst seasons in Bundesliga history. They bounced back up, then got relegated again in 2023. They're currently in the Zweite Bundesliga while their Ruhr rivals Dortmund compete for Champions League titles. So your challenge here, get Schalke back to the Bundesliga, stabilise them financially and return them to Champions League football. The Veltrins Arena deserves European nights again. This is one of Germany's most historic clubs with a fan base that never gives up. Schalke's fall has been catastrophic. Their rise needs to match it. And number 1, probably the most predictable on the list, if I'm being completely honest, Bordeaux of France. They've won Ligue 1 6 times. They've won the Coupe de France 4 times. Bordeaux were French champions as recently as 2009. They've played Champions League football. They had Zinedine Zidane in their academy. This was a club that competed with PSG, Lyon and Marseille for domestic dominance. So this is the most catastrophic collapse on the list. Relegated from Ligue 1 in 2022, full financial meltdown. Relegated from Ligue 2 in 2023. Administrative relegation to National 2, the 4th tier of French football. Bordeaux went from the Champions League to the 4th tier in 3 years. So your challenge is to climb all the way back up to Ligue 1. Win the French title again. Take one of France's most decorated clubs from the depths of despair back to European football. This is the ultimate rebuilding project. This is a rock bottom for a genuine giant. If you can take Bordeaux from the 4th tier back to Champions League football, you can do anything in Football Manager. So there you have it. 10 fallen giants, 10 incredible challenges, 10 stories waiting to be written in FM26. From Everton trying to reclaim their place at the top of English football to Bordeaux climbing out of the 4th tier, these saves will all push you to your limits. So which one are you picking? Are you going to go for the DC United nostalgia trip, the Schalke redemption arc? Are you brave enough to take on Bordeaux's climb from National 2? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell so you don't miss out on the rest of my FM26 content. I'm going to have more save ideas, I'm going to do some tactical breakdowns, we've got some new fun stuff coming up as well, and everything you need to dominate FM26 is coming your way. I'm Chasing Laneway, I'll see you in the next one. Go build a dynasty.